Chapter 8, Where Freedom Really Begins. We call choice what inside was capacity. We call guilt what inside was limitation. Leo Tolstoy. Much of the confusion around free will is born from an imprecise use of the word freedom. It appears almost everywhere, applied to very different experiences as if they were all the same kind. The result is a conceptual mixture that makes any honest understanding of will, choice, and responsibility difficult. To undo this confusion, it helps to observe human experience as a sequence, something like an inner timeline. When we do this, we realize that freedom is not present at every moment of the process. First moment, the arising of the will. Before any conscious decision, something happens. The will arises. A desire appears. An inclination imposes itself. A preference forms. This first moment is entirely involuntary. We do not choose to desire. We do not decide to feel attraction, fear, curiosity, anger, or interest. These dispositions emerge as a result of who we are, our history, our body, our emotional state, and the context we are inserted in. Here, it is important to be clear. There is no freedom at this level. Not because something is missing in us, but because there is nothing to exercise. The will simply appears. There is no before the will in which we could decide to have it or not have it. Treating this moment as a field of freedom is a common conceptual error, and it is precisely this error that sustains many confusions about free will. Second moment, the freedom of the will. Only after the will has already arisen do we enter the field where real free will, in the sense adopted in this book, begins to exist. Real free will here does not mean creating the will, nor choosing it, but the freedom of the will to determine itself, that is, the possibility, greater or smaller, that this will is realized. At this point, freedom is real, but always relative. It depends on countless conditions: social, moral, emotional, physical, legal, cultural. The same can be almost entirely blocked in one context and widely possible in another. A person may wish to act in a certain way and still be unable to do so because of fear, shame, social norms, legal restrictions, or practical limitations. In another scenario, that same will finds room to express itself easily. This is where free will exists, not in the birth of the will, but in the margin of realization it finds. Third moment, action. The last moment is action itself. Here, the will has already passed through the filter of available conditions and expresses itself, or does not, in behavior. This level is not, in itself, a conceptual field of freedom, but of practical capacity, having means, time, strength, resources, permission, safety. Many times, we confuse this capacity with freedom, when in truth, it is only the concrete possibility of execution. Action is the visible point of a process that began much earlier in the involuntary arising of the will, where the confusion usually happens. The most common mistake is to mix these three moments as if they were one. We speak of freedom as if it were present from the beginning, as if we could choose what to desire, control our inclinations, or create our wills out of nothing. When this confusion takes hold, unrealistic expectations arise, excessive guilt, and harsh judgments, both of ourselves and of others. Separating these levels does not reduce human responsibility. On the contrary, it makes it more precise. When we know where freedom really begins, we stop demanding the impossible and start dealing with the real. The will arises without freedom. Real free will exists only as the freedom of an already existing will. Action depends on the conditions that make that freedom possible or limited. Understanding this sequence does not solve every dilemma, but it organizes the ground. And, many times, that is exactly what is missing for reflection to move forward without noise.